the Lost Geographer Podcast, Episode 1.
We're living in an increasingly globalized society now, and it's not going to change anytime soon. The coffee you drink comes from beans originally grown in South America. The watch you wear was made in Switzerland. The car you use to drive to work is sold by a Japanese automobile manufacturer. Despite this rapid globalization, many people are still unaware of what is going on around them, and this needs to change. This is the Lost Geographer Podcast, where you will become geographically and culturally literate and learn the tools necessary to navigate this new global society. It's your world. Own it. Own it.
Do you want the most out of your next vacation? Why wouldn't you? You spend so much money already on it, and you don't want to come home empty-handed like so many people do, with regrets and wishing they had enjoyed their time more and been present during the experience rather than thinking about the next place that they were going and not enjoying the attraction that was in front of them. Here at the Lost Geographer, we have a personalized vacation guide service where we make it all about you. We base it upon your interests, your hobbies, and what you want out of your vacation. We tailor it to you and your party. If you're interested in making the most out of your next vacation, visit www.thelostgeographer.net/personalized-vacation-guides. All right, everybody, welcome to the Lost Geographer Podcast, where we promote geographic and cultural literacy. It's your world, own it. I'm your host, Rohit Amrith, founder of The Lost Geographer at www.thelostgeographer.net. And this is episode 1 of the Lost Geographer Podcast. And yes, episode 1, the first episode. I am super excited. This is hopefully episode 1 of many. And in this episode, we'll talk a little bit about the podcast and what I hope to accomplish through this, the project in general, and I'll talk a little bit about myself so you can better understand what this project is about. So, in terms of the podcast, I first came up with this idea because I felt that people just didn't have authentic information about places in the world or travel. There were just so many conflicting sources coming from the media, all over the internet, people with their own biased experiences. So while I can't completely filter out the bias, I can do my best to eliminate the middlemen, we can call them, by interviewing people who are from that country. So if you're going to travel to a country, one set of the podcast will be interviews from people from a country. So, for example, you want to go to China, there should be a podcast about someone from China, like a native Chinese person, who will tell you how to behave in that country, some manners you should observe, how you should go about conducting business and your social life, etc. So you can get the information directly from the source rather than having to rely on your friend who studied abroad or your other friend who didn't learn Chinese and just had to go there for business. This will allow you to really understand the truth on how etiquette is conducted in that country. And I'll also do my best to find someone who kind of has other perspectives as well so that they can compare and really see, okay, what is it that foreigners do that they shouldn't do and how can they improve that? So that's one part of the podcast. The other part is hopefully talk to travel experts who will tell you how to travel and travel smart, travel cheap, and just make the most out of your experience, because all too often people complain that they can't travel because, it's too expensive, or, it doesn't seem very interesting, I'd rather just stay at home. They're just afraid to go outside their comfort zone and really experience what the world is like. And hopefully through these travel experts, I can get rid of that fear in people so that they can go out there, travel, make the most out of their life, because traveling is just such... It opens your eyes to so many things that you wouldn't even thought of possible. You don't know it's possible because you haven't been exposed to it, because it's in a different culture or a different place. So hopefully by bringing these travel experts, you can learn how to travel better and eventually just live a more fulfilling life. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Again, my name is Rohit Amrith, and I have always been interested in geography for as long as I can remember. When I was a kid, 3-4 years old, I would be sitting and looking at maps while the other kids were playing with their toys. The atlas was my toy. I would just study these maps forever, look at them, and eventually I got to a point where I looked at all these borders and I would think, what are the people like inside of these countries? Why are there borders? Why do these borders exist? What are these cities like? So I went ahead and researched a lot about the people, and I eventually became very geographically and culturally literate because I always knew where I was in the world in relation to everything else. Not only that, I also knew a lot about people because if we had a foreign student come into school, I would usually make really good friends with them because I knew where they were coming from. I knew a little bit about their culture, and yeah, I was able to connect with them. And what I noticed as I grew older was that first, that geography throughout school was never emphasized. People never really gave it the importance that it, I believe, needs to be there. And a lot of people just didn't know much about the world. And these were intelligent people. I'd see some of my friends just say absolutely ignorant things. And it's not that it was their fault. They were just never taught it. They just never learned that it was important to know about the rest of the world. And it was kind of sad to me to see this because, like I said, these were fairly intelligent people and they weren't getting the benefits that I was getting from having this sort of knowledge. So that's why I believe that spreading this sort of knowledge is absolutely crucial, especially in this day and age when the world is becoming more and more globalized. The world's basically getting smaller, and it's very difficult to go your entire life without meeting someone from another culture, whereas compare that to about 100 years ago, that would have been far easier. Not only that, if you look at the current state of the world, there's just conflicts everywhere. People are just killing each other for no reason. And yes, it's in the difference of culture, but if you really look at it, culture is based on certain things. People don't do things just for the sake of doing them. There is a certain benefit to them doing whatever that they're doing. Whether an outsider agrees with it or not, to them, it's what's right. And that's the problem with a lot of people nowadays, is that they're too judgmental without one could take a look at what's the reason for people doing what they're doing. And so by understanding this better, hopefully bring about a more geographically and culturally literate future where people will just be more understanding. There will be less conflict. Now, obviously, you can never eliminate full conflict fully, but there are so many conflicts, and there have been so many conflicts throughout history that just could have been avoided because people refused to understand what the other person was doing, and there was no inherent threat. They just saw, oh, they're doing this differently. It's bad. We should kill them all. And that's just the kind of mentality that claims so many innocent lives in this world. So that eventually led me to start a movement, which is the Lost Geographer, which you can visit at www.thelostgeographer.net, which I use to promote geographic and cultural literacy. I want everyone to see how cool the world is and that they live here. They should know about it. There's absolutely no reason why they should be so ignorant. It's their world and they should own it. Hence tagline, it's your world, own it. So that's where this is going, and this podcast is just a part of the entire movement, as hopefully everyone can see why being so geographically and culturally literate is so useful and necessary. It leads to a better life in the simplest terms. You live more fulfilled, you die more fulfilled because you saw everything that there had to be seen, and you just get more out of it. So in a nutshell, that's what this entire project is about. That's what this podcast is about. So I'm going to end this podcast right here, but before I do that, I'm going to give you a little action item that will hopefully set the tone for you to realize why this is so important. I want you to go and just research one fact about any country that you've never heard of. Just one fact. Find something interesting you didn't know about it. And a great place to start is on the website, The Lost Geographer, where if you go to www.thelostgeographer.net, click on the country snapshots, you can go through and find information about every sovereign state as recognized by the United Nations, and just go find a fact about their culture, their economy, their geography, just something. Maybe you don't even know where that country is. Go look at the map, see where that country is, and I promise you, just that one fact, you can use it and impress people. It's very useful to know even these 1, 2, 3 facts that you didn't think were very important. it's surprising where it would come in handy. So that's the action item. Go look up one fact about a country that you've never heard of, and I hope to see you guys here next week for the next episode of the Lost Geographer Podcast. Till then, it's your world. Own it.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Lost Geographer Podcast. Remember to tune in next week for more awesome content.